Hello, my bright stars. So I'm back. This used to be called the Messy Human Tarot, and now this is the Ruby Garney Show. I'm your host, Ruby. Thank you for joining us, by the way. I really appreciate everyone who does join. If you like anything you've heard, please share. I really appreciate that. So what we're going to talk about today is something I touched on briefly. Is focusing on the light. Now, it can mean a lot of different things for us focusing on the light. It could be, maybe doing affirmations, positive thinking, maybe deep breaths, and we're just in the present moment. It can be a lot of many things. And for some of us who are more on the metaphysical side, we may actively be doing exercises that support our connection to our higher selves and to the divine source. And maybe you're an atheist and focusing on the light is just eating good food and connecting with your dog and going and relaxing for 30 minutes a day. Everyone's going to be a little different. I know this is a mostly spiritual place for most, but I also too want to leave it open for those who may not really resonate with with everything I believe in. I just want to have a safe space for us to talk. And I totally understand that sometimes it's just holding your cat and giving that cat kisses and feeling the warmth of your partner or your husband or your wife, or looking at the face of your child. That is light. And we can't just think, okay, light is this metaphysical thing where I'm focusing on all the very different pretty colors of my meditation. Have you ever heard of those, like, there's some people who can do that. They have a meditation and they're in this euphoria where they see these different colors. And I will be honest with you, the closest I've ever gotten to that is while I was like, oh, good shit, man. And I don't do that shit anymore, so I don't see anything anymore. I don't, and I do not prescribe to it. I do not advertise that stuff because I went clean for a reason. I'm very, it's funny, I'm like, I am so much a disbeliever in that stuff now, and I used to be such a big believer in it, and I'm like, it's not that I say people should have it, it's just I don't believe it for myself. I don't. And speaking of focusing on the light, I love listening to stories. I was really big into Krishna Das, and he loves to tell his spiritual lessons in a story. And Spirit is actually pointing me in that direction right now about Krishna Das, about his teacher, I'm sorry, I'm just giggling so much. And that's also too part about being with light, is connecting with the things that make us feel good and make us laugh, because that always makes me laugh, is thinking about his teacher, Amaraji. I can't say his name for the life of me, but I sometimes, like, I think in my head, where I think about this guy, it's like, oh, I wish I could have seen him. I wish I could have met him, because he's throwing bananas, and then Krishna just not getting a banana at all. Oh my God, like, yes, at the time, in the moment, he probably was like, oh my God, like, this sucks so bad. And then, but now, as an older man, he's like, this is funny shit. Like, this is like, like, what kind of teacher does this? Like taunting your students with no banana. I need my banana. Give me my banana. And as someone who really loves stories, this is great stuff, because his teacher even partook in some drugs to show the lack of impact on the stuff on his psyche, because he was so far down the journey, of enlightenment that it couldn't do anything to him anymore, because he wouldn't allow it to. He could stop it from doing anything, because he didn't need that. He didn't need that because it wasn't a source of light for him. His source of light was being in the present moment and just being in his world and enjoying the people around him. And when I look at these stories, I it's almost like I'm flipping through a page in my head and I'm rereading some old stories, and I love it. So that's a prime example of focusing on the light, is sometimes even our minds reviewing things that are very pleasant to us. I love reviewing wonderful things in my mind. There are periods where obviously we're better at our coping skills at other times, but you always return home, right? You always return home, and so it's returning to the chant, returning to the light. So if for whatever reason you get off track, don't worry about it. You're on a detour, right? You're here to have fun, and then you're gonna get back to the light. You will always get back to the light. You will hold your cat again. You'll see your kid again. You will find that source of light once more. And there's been times where I thought like, oh, I feel this way right now. I feel this way. How can I get out of this right now? I don't like this feeling at all. I just want to feel good. And when I focus on the light, like, it goes away. It just goes away. And I love it, and I want to stay there. I want to stay there forever, right? And let's just imagine that's possible. What would life look like if we could just stay in the light forever? We'd have to give up quite a bit, wouldn't we? And some of you might be like, what? Like what would I have to give up? Well, our attachment to negative thinking, our attachment to suffering. And anyone out there that says we're not attached to suffering is very much in denial about it. But we will not talk about that right now. But because we're focusing on what we have to give up. We have to give up our emotional habits. Like, for instance, say if you're a person that sometimes grieves randomly throughout the day. Like, I have had moments where I'll be doing something and I'll have a moment of grief, like very powerful, come over me, and something uncomfortable would happen. Or I think about something very uncomfortable and I'd have this moment of grief, and I'm going like, what? Why am I doing that? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I have a great life. I have a partner. I have all the things I wanted. Literally, I'm not kidding you. Like, it's so comical. It's very comical. I have a lot of things I wanted when I was a young person that I thought would make me happy. And the only reason I'm not always happy and I want more is because there's a strong part of me, my ego, that is attached to the suffering, to the grief, to the panic. It is, if you think about it, it's a habitual response. I'm so used to panicking, so used to being in grief, so used to the negative thinking. It's like a security blanket. What would I be without it? I would have to completely change my identity? Probably, because I'm not that girl who panics, or I'm not that girl who does this, I'm not that girl who does that. I mean, it's very uncomfortable when we have to say goodbye and start all over again, right? A lot of us out there don't like change. So if you don't like change, you're definitely gonna not like the fact that you have to suddenly no longer have negative thoughts. And I know there's going to be people out there giving me that's silly. But I say, okay, well then go and not have negative thoughts. And most of us are going to say, well, it's harder than, that's easier said than done. I used to hear that a lot. I worked in the mental health field for years, and I used to hear that a lot. Oh, easier said than done. I'm like, well, yeah, because you're having resistance to letting go. You're having resistance to change. Of course, that's natural. You're still learning how to tolerate change. Most of us are still learning how to tolerate change. So that's okay. Just go back home. When you're ready, you'll go back home. When you're ready, you'll go back to the light. That's okay. Don't force yourself to tolerate something you're not ready to tolerate yet. Because a lot of us, like, think about it. When you go from the dark to the light, your eyes have to adjust too. So you can't treat yourself harshly and demand yourself to change overnight. You actually have to adjust yourself to a new way of living. And the reason a lot of us need to adjust slowly is because we are learning so many different things at once. And it's okay. Because you will come back home again and again and again. You have plenty of time to get comfortable with the light. And with that, I'm going to leave you. But if you liked anything you heard, please share, please like, please comment. Tell me your pleasant thought. Tell me, what are you drawn to the most that makes you feel good inside? Tell me how you return home. What's the thing that helps you? We're all in a community, whether we're aware of it or not. And I like the idea of people down below in the comments supporting one another. So please keep your language polite. Please keep it in harmony with the higher source. Because if it's not, I'm going to get around to deleting it. Because I'm going to have to, like what those beekeepers, they have that spray. They get rid of, granted, they're moving the bees out from their home and the bees go back. But they have to clean out the impurities, I'm assuming, right? No, they have to get the honey, right? They have to extract the honey, right? So it's not a really good analogy, but for some weird reason that popped into my brain. So, I don't know. But maybe I'll come and extract that crap out and throw it out instead. Alright. You're all a pleasure. Merry meet, blessed be, homage, good health, and to Lucy.